The rain had been falling for 3 straight days. I sat alone in the hospital waiting room, watching the droplets race down the window pane. Each one blurred into the next until it was impossible to tell where one ended and another began. That's exactly how my life felt. Formless, hopeless, dissolving into something unrecognizable. My brother lay in the ICU 2 floors above, machines breathing for him because his own lungs had forgotten how. The drunk driver who hit him had walked away with barely a scratch. Tommy, on the other hand, suffered a fractured skull, a collapsed lung, and medical bills that made my vision swim every time I glanced at them. $375,000 for surgeries and months of rehabilitation, all for a slim chance that he might walk again. I was 32, a middle school art teacher making $38,000 a year. I had already sold my car, borrowed against my tiny retirement account, and maxed out every credit card I owned. It wasn't nearly enough. Miss Sullivan, a man in a tailored suit, appeared before me. He looked completely out of place among the exhausted families and worn furniture. "I'm Richard Chun. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Harrison Blackwell." The name meant nothing to me. I stared at him, confused. "Mr. Blackwell owns Quantum Systems. He's been following your brother's case and would like to help." A flutter of hope stirred in my chest. Dangerous, desperate hope. "Help how?" I asked. "He'll cover all of your brother's medical expenses, surgery, rehabilitation, everything. In exchange, he asks only one thing." Richard Chun pulled an envelope from his briefcase. "He'd like you to marry him." I laughed. Harsh, bitter laughter. "That's insane. Why would a tech billionaire want to marry a broke art teacher?" "Mr. Blackwell is terminally ill," Chun said. "He has perhaps 6 months. He spent his life building his company, and now he's dying alone. He wants companionship for whatever time he has left. When he passes, you'll be free to move on, and your brother will receive the care he needs." "This is crazy," I whispered, though my mind was already on Tommy, on the doctor saying time was running out. "Think about it," Richard said, handing me the envelope. "You have until tomorrow morning." That night, I sat beside Tommy's bed. He was still unconscious, his pale face blending into the white sheets as though he were already disappearing. He was 28 and supposed to get married next year. His fiancée, Sarah, came every day, sitting in the same chair I now occupied, holding his hand, crying quietly. "What do I do?" I whispered to him, knowing he couldn't hear, yet already knowing the answer. The wedding took place in a lawyer's office. No flowers, no music, no guests except Richard Chun and Harrison's elderly housekeeper, Mrs. Hartley. Harrison sat in a wheelchair, which shocked me. I had assumed the terminal illness was cancer or something similar. I hadn't expected to see him so physically diminished already. At 53, he looked older, his face drawn and gray, dark circles shadowing his eyes. His hand shook slightly as he signed the marriage certificate. "Thank you," he said quietly when it was done, his voice rough as if speaking hurt. "I know this isn't what you wanted. You're saving my brother's life," I replied. "Thank you." We drove to his home, a sprawling estate an hour north of the city. The house was beautiful, in a cold way, all glass and steel, decorated with art that probably cost more than I would earn in a lifetime. Yet, it felt empty, lonely. "Your room is on the 2nd floor," Harrison said without looking at me. "Mine is on the 1st. I don't go upstairs much anymore, too many steps. Mrs. Hartley will show you around. If you need anything, just ask her." "What about meals?" I asked. "Do we eat together if you'd like, or not?" "Whatever makes you comfortable." He wheeled himself toward a hallway and disappeared before I could respond. Mrs. Hartley was about 70, if a day, with kind eyes and a flower on her apron. "Don't mind him, dear," she said, gently taking my arm. "He's not used to people. Come, I'll make you tea." The kitchen was warm, a stark contrast to the rest of the house, smelling of bread and vanilla. Mrs. Hartley moved with the ease of someone who had been there forever. "How long have you worked for him?" I asked. 32 years. I watched that boy grow up. A brilliant mind, a kind heart, but so alone. His parents died when he was 19, in a car accident. He threw himself into building the company, and never stopped long enough to build a life. She poured tea into delicate china cups. "This illness has been hard on him. He's scared, I think, though he'd never admit it." "What kind of illness?" Her face clouded. Heart condition. Cardiomyopathy, the doctors called it. They said 6 months. That was 5 months ago. 5 months. So I had arrived near the end. The first 2 weeks were strange. I barely saw Harrison, who spent his days in the study, emerging only briefly for meals we ate in silence. Each day he looked worse, more tired, more gray. At night, I sometimes heard him coughing, harsh sounds echoing through the empty house. I visited Tommy every day. His surgery had been successful, and he was awake now, starting the long road to recovery. Sarah never left his side. "How's married life?" Tommy joked, his voice weak. "Quiet," I said. "This guy treating you okay?" "He barely speaks to me." "It's fine. It's just temporary." But something was off. Harrison was clearly ill, but the way he forgot to take his medication, the way he refused to see doctors, troubled me. Richard Chen would come by with appointment reminders, and Harrison would cancel them. "He's always been stubborn about doctors," Mrs. Hartley explained. One night, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs for water and heard noises from Harrison's study, grunting, a crash. I ran to the door. Harrison was on the floor, his wheelchair tipped over. He was trying to reach his desk, clearly in pain. "Oh my God," I rushed. "What happened?" "Don't," he gasped. "Just help me up." I slid my arms under his shoulders. He was heavier than he looked, but I managed to get him into his chair. His face was slick with sweat. "I'm calling 911, I said. "No," his hand shot out, gripping my wrist. "Please, no hospitals. I just need my medication." "Top drawer, the blue bottle." I handed it to him. He took 2 pills with shaking hands. "Why won't you go to the hospital?" I demanded. "Because they can't help me," he said flatly. "All they do is run tests and make promises they can't keep. I'd rather spend whatever time I have left here than hooked up to machines." I understood, but I also understood something else. "You're getting worse faster than they predicted, aren't you?" He looked at me then, really looked at me for the first time since we met. "Yes." "How long do you think you have?" "A month. Maybe less." Something in my chest cracked. I had married a stranger for money, but sitting there on the study floor at 2 a.m, watching him struggle to breathe, I felt something unexpected. Compassion, maybe something deeper. "Let me help you to bed," I said softly. After that night, things changed. Harrison began joining me for breakfast. We talked, small things at first, the weather, books we'd read, then gradually deeper topics. He told me about his parents, about building quantum systems from nothing, about the loneliness of success. I shared my life, teaching, Tommy and Sarah, dreams of someday owning my own art studio. "Why did you give that up?" he asked. "I didn't. I just postponed it. Life has a way of getting in the way." "Life always gets in the way if you let it," he said. "After I'm gone, use whatever money you need to open that studio." "Harrison, I can't." "Yes, you can. You will. Promise me." "I promise." We fell into a rhythm. Each evening, I would read to him. He would recount his day, describe the business challenges he was tackling, even as his health declined. Sometimes, we simply sat in silence, watching the sunset through the enormous windows, and it felt natural, comforting. Mrs. Hartley observed us with quiet approval. "You're good for him," she said. "He's smiling again." But he was weakening. By the 4th month, it became impossible for him to hide it. The coughing fits stretched longer. He stopped working and slept more. Yet, something gnawed at me, a small detail I couldn't quite identify. It began the morning I found him in the bathroom, pills scattered across the counter. "What are all these?" I asked. "Medications for the heart condition," he said. I picked up one bottle, read the label, then another, and then another. "Harrison, these are from different doctors, different prescriptions. Some of these could dangerously interact. The doctors aren't coordinating." He waved it off. "They don't coordinate. Not a big deal." But that didn't make sense. A man with his resources should have a perfectly coordinated medical team. I checked the dates. All the prescriptions were recent, issued within the last few months. I began paying attention. The way Richard Chen brought Harrison vitamins every morning, the way Harrison took them without question, the way he worsened shortly afterward, the way Richard always insisted Harrison skip doctor's appointments. One afternoon, while Mrs. Hartley tended her garden, I asked, "Does Richard handle all of Harrison's medical care?" "Oh, yes," she said, smiling. He's been wonderful taking care of everything since Harrison got sick. Such a loyal assistant, been with him 10 years. 10 years. And positioned to inherit a significant portion of the company if Harrison died. A chill ran through me that night. I waited until Harrison had taken Richard's vitamins, until he had fallen asleep after a coughing fit. Then I took the bottle Richard had left and drove to the 24-hour pharmacy. I need to speak to a pharmacist, I told the clerk. The pharmacist, a weary woman named Linda, examined the pills and their labels, frowning. This isn't right, she said. These aren't for heart conditions. They're blood thinners, strong ones, and at this dosage and frequency, if someone with a heart condition took them long-term, it would gradually weaken their cardiovascular system, making it seem as though their condition was naturally worsening. My hands trembled. Could it kill them? I asked. Over several months? Absolutely. I barely made it home. Mrs. Hartley was still awake, reading in the kitchen. We need to call the police, I said. Now. She listened, her face paling. Richard? But he's like family. He's been poisoning Harrison. We have to get him to a hospital and tested. We called 911. The police arrived. Harrison was confused and weak, but alive. They collected blood samples at the hospital, tested all his medications, and discovered arsenic, overdoses of blood thinners, and evidence of systematic poisoning over 5 months. Richard Chen was arrested at his apartment. Authorities found additional poison, forged medical records, and emails to another tech CEO discussing acquisitions after Harrison's death. Harrison spent 2 weeks in the hospital. As the poison cleared from his system, he regained strength. Color returned to his cheeks. His hands stopped trembling. There's no terminal heart condition, the doctor told us. He has a mild arrhythmia, easily managed with proper medication. But the damage from the poison was severe. He's lucky to be alive. Harrison looked at me from his hospital bed. You saved my life. Mrs. Hartley helped too. I shook my head. No, you noticed. You cared enough to question things. His eyes glistened. Margaret, he said, I know our marriage was a business arrangement, but these months with you have been the happiest of my life, even when I thought I was dying. Especially then, because you made me feel less alone. I took his hand. You make me feel less alone too. When I'm fully recovered, if you want a divorce, I'll give you whatever you need. Money for Tommy's care, money for your studio, whatever it takes. But if you want to stay, he swallowed. If you want to try making this real, I would like that very much. I thought about the past 4 months. Quiet breakfasts, evening conversations, the way my heart raced when he smiled, the way I fell asleep thinking of him, the terror I felt when I thought he was dying. I'd like that too, I whispered. The legal proceedings took months. Richard Chen went to prison for attempted murder and fraud. Harrison recovered slowly but fully. Tommy finished rehabilitation and married Sarah in a beautiful ceremony, where Harrison and I stood by their side. Our own rings now symbols of something real. Mrs. Hartley cried throughout. I prayed for this, she said, for you both to find each other. Harrison sold quantum systems, not out of necessity, but because he wanted to. I spent my whole life building it, he said. Now I want to spend my life living. We used the proceeds to start a foundation providing medical care to accident victims without insurance. The idea came from those desperate days in Tommy's hospital room. Harrison loved it. This matters, he said, more than any code I've ever written. We bought a smaller, warmer house by the ocean with a north-facing studio for me. I painted while Harrison worked on foundation projects. Sometimes he would just sit and watch. Every ordinary moment felt extraordinary. 1.5 years after our wedding, we sat on the beach watching the sunset. Do you ever think about how we met? Harrison asked. Every day, I said. How desperate I was. How scared. I was desperate too, he said, pulling me closer. Dying alone, or so I thought. Richard was poisoning me, but loneliness was killing me faster. Then you came and made me want to live, even before we knew about the poison. You made me want more time. We have time now, I said. All the time we want. He kissed me as the sun sank into the ocean. I thought of hospital windows streaked with rain, of desperate choices, of how life's darkest moments can lead to the brightest. 3 months ago, a young woman contacted our foundation. Her mother was in a coma from a stroke, medical bills mounting. Could we help? We did. Last week, I received a call. The mother was awake and recovering, the daughter crying with relief. "You saved her life," she said. I thought of Richard, that hospital waiting room, the pills disguised as medicine. Of noticing, questioning, caring enough to save a life. "Just pay attention to the people you love," I told her. "That's how we save each other." Later, Harrison found me in my studio, tears on my face. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing. Everything is right. Do you remember what you said in the hospital about these months being the happiest of your life?" "Every word," he said. "Mine too. Even the scary parts. Because they led here, to us," he corrected. "To us. The rain comes sometimes, like that day in the hospital, but now, watching it race down the window, it doesn't blur into chaos. It sparkles, catches the light, beautiful in its own way. Jay."